50% of Americans may have lost their faith in God, but we will never lose our faith in you. And we are here to tell you that there are powerful and transcendent forces within you, beyond you, around you, that we can access to change the world for the better. For you truly are an awakening wonder. And this is where we come to awaken together, individually, collectively. In the company of my on-screen assistant, Gareth Roy, we will be discussing global events, how they're conveyed to you by a media that I believe to be largely corrupt, although, you know, there's some great people out there doing their best. We're going to be talking about the way that governments and big businesses collaborate. We're going to be talking in particular about the attempt to label all anti-establishment rhetoric as right-wing or conspiracy theory. This is going to be increasingly difficult as Ron DeSantis launches his presidential bid on Twitter. We already know that Tucker's going to have some kind of affiliation with Twitter, and I think that Elon Musk had a few quid in his pocket before this venture even began, from the rockets and the tech and the driverless cars and the rhetoric, and maybe there'll be some updates there. I've got a German Shepherd. He's loose in the building, ambling around even now. He's not on Twitter, and he's the sort of person that would do well there.
He would.
I would think, because he's plucky, he's an individual, he's got a lot to say for himself. There he goes. In our presentation, Here's the News, no, here's the effing news, we'll be talking about those FBI whistleblowers who will be joining us live on the show soon. They had some interesting revelations around January the 6th, as well as other conduct within the FBI that's worthy, I believe, of further scrutiny. And it's in fact the mainstream media's inability to look in a relatively unbiased way at stories like that one that I think is leading us to this place of crisis. But to a degree it's beneficial for us, because alternative media like us, Stay Free Media, where we're dedicated to you, and you can let us know in the comments if you think we're doing a good job or where we could improve. If you're watching this on YouTube right now, join us on Rumble, because about 15 minutes in we're going to about talk more openly, in particular, about those FBI whistleblowers and some of their revelations around January the 6th. If you're already watching us on Rumble, join us on Locals. There's a red button on your screen. Press that. Join our community. You get access to all sorts of other stuff. We read the comments here. People talking out. Who's on there? Catherine And. How's the pen? How's the pen? What does she mean by that? That pen that I sniff sometimes.
It could be that.
I don't want to talk about that pen. That's private. That's
for some places.
That's for the Locals community. That's the private pen. Oh, my dog's settled down. That's a relief. Also, I'll be talking to comedian, actor, and are we going to call him an activist? Sometimes people don't like to be called an activist. I don't like it.
Right.
Earlier today, someone bought me like sort of some letter out to sign. It said like philanthropist. I goes, get philanthropist off. That basically, like, you know, like the philanthropist is always a cover for something. I just goes comedian. That's my job. And that's enough. Everything is coming from that perspective. We'll talk to Omid Djalili. I've known him for ages, Omid. He's a brilliant, funny comedian. He's going to talk to us about protests in Iran and how he's found himself curiously at the centre of conveying many of those narratives because of censorship and oppression in Iran around this uprising that's been going on there for a little while. And I'll be talking to him about the general global insurgency, whether it's around agriculture or whether it's around mandates, as in the Canadian trucker protests, and how centralised authority is shutting down on radicalism in all its forms. Remember when we spoke to you earlier in the week, we just pointed out that the FBI have been surveilling not only January the 6th protesters, but also George Floyd, Black Lives Matter protesters. So wherever you might see yourself on the social scale, they see you in the same way, a potential threat to their ongoing systemic hegemony. Should we call it that?
Yep.
Let's call it that. We've got some of your comments, though, now in an item we call Freech. Where freedom and speech meet, you get free speech. Where free speech meets, you get Freech here on Rumble. Is there a graphic for that? We're going to see that thing, such as it is. A lot of people have the word free and the word speech going together like this. Free speech. And then all fireworks come off it. Freech. Improve this. Right, and then that's it. Terrible. Next time, have have a musical bed for it,
What
Jack.
I think happens is, when you do this criticism post the Sting now, people think, oh, he's having fun with it. But I actually do think he wants a new Sting. He does want a new Sting.
It should be improved. It's a disgrace. Later on in the show, I'll be doing my item, Brandy on Gandhi, where I talk about the ideas of Mahatma Gandhi and how they can be used to revitalise a flagging and fractured anti-establishment movement across the world. He talks a lot about decentralisation. and we'll be talking about that. I think it's the solution. You know, 'cause sometimes people go, what's the solution? You know, it's enough complaining. What's the solution? We're going to do that later.
With that title that people might think it's that 90s pop star on
Brandy. On Gandhi. Oh, I remember her.
Careful.
I wish it was. She was gorgeous.
She could nick that.
Brandy on Gandhi. Wouldn't she sing Boys, Boys, Boys?
I'm not sure what the song was.
Wasn't that a hit? Boys, 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 thank you for the good times. Boys, boys. She's a nice lady. Right. Thank you for the good times. Or what about Wakefield? Saturday night.
Yeah.
Them were the days. Yeah. Good days. Some of you are saying things like this. Saying, Human Dog goes, yesterday we asked if we can come and visit the studio. Lots of you are asking about Elon. Suki Koala says, I'd like to have Russell as my dad. Doomsayer, what's going on with Jack's graphics? FBI whistleblowers. We'll be talking about this a little later. Jim Earth C137, locking up whistleblowers is the equivalent of locking up the gun instead of the murderer. Absurd. Wait a minute, locking up the gun. Wait a minute, carry the one, divided by 2, square that, put it out in that column. Yeah,
yes it is.
What is that? That's not right. That can't be the way to conduct things. People like Brandy on Gandhi. Don't worry, got the old Gandhi book.
Don't you worry. It's coming up.
You got a problem with Brandy?
No, it's coming up. I'm just saying.
You don't like Brandy and Gandhi?
I just think you should copyright it.
Do you not like it? I'm gonna. You don't like when I talk about God?
In case she steals
it. You don't like it when I talk about God. Well, I will not apologise for my Lord. I won't. I'm going to keep talking about God. You can be atheists if you want. And we've got Dickie Dawkins coming on the show. Right. Soon we'll be taking a seasonal break. Who doesn't take a seasonal break? Gary Neville, the footballer, apparently. But a lot of people do take holidays and vacations and breaks. And what we will be taking is a break. And when we come back, guess who's coming on the show? Elon Musk, Tucker Carlson, Billie Jean King.
Tulsi Gabbard?
Tulsi Gabbard.
The original Brandy?
Billie Jean King.
Oh, okay.
Martina Navratilova. They're all coming on.
Wow.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Did I say Billie Jean King?
You did say
She's
that.
coming on.
Yeah.
She's coming on strong. Anyway, Ron DeSantis.
When you say Billie Jean King, do you think mainly of the Michael Jacksons?
Yeah. Oh, this is good. I'm playing like Be Lucky squares. Hot square. Dun, 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 dun. I show my children Michael Jackson. No, I mean, like, they've got to know sometime.
No idea
just the music.
To respond to that. Okay, good.
I love him. I just go, this is Michael Jackson. He's brilliant. Down the line, I'll tell you some other stuff. Ron DeSantis to launch 2024 presidential bid on Twitter. This is it. Elon Musk is making moves, baby.
Yep.
Now, like, I don't know
much about... This is where politics happens now.
Politics happens on Twitter, free speech happens on Rumble, but Elon Musk, who I'm in negotiations with right now, using the telephone... Alexander Graham Bell from Scotland. He invented that, if I'm not very much mistaken. I'm using that to negotiate with Elon Musk about getting him on, but it's quite complicated because he's got to do it on Twitter first. Oh, we've got to do it on Rumble. The thing is, when you're negotiating with Elon Musk, what you realise is he's the world's richest man. I'm the bloke for getting Sarah Marshall. Listen, Musk, I'll tell you now, and I'll tell you good. If you want another sequel to Sarah Marshall, in spite of the diminishing returns of Get Him to the Greek, you will not get a third sequel unless... Hello? Elon? I will not give you a single Bitcoin unless you bloody well... Listen, if you need a host for the MTV VMAs 2024, you can look elsewhere. Because I won't do it, man. I won't do it. I've got no cards. I hold no cards with Elon. Either Elon says jump, I say, ha.
Yep.
Elon says jump.
You say.
How high? How high would you like me to jump?
Yeah.
It's a weird response, really.
It's going to be interesting. It's a matchup.
This is what I want to talk about this. I want to talk about how, like, Vanity Fair, look at this. Vanity Fair says that DeSantis and Elon Musk it sort of makes jokes about them being neo-Nazi sympathisers. Like, it's David Duke, isn't he the Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan?
I think so.
They are that's white supremacy.
Right.
Ku Klux Klan, white supremacy. Then there's, of course... unconscious racial biases that many people may carry, along with all of the other unconscious things that people carry that are by their nature unconscious, and therefore it's difficult to dispute or determine. And one can certainly argue that there are biases, prejudices, and historical abuses of various communities across history. That's difficult to deny. But by saying that Elon Musk is a neo-Nazi sympathiser, this is something I've started to notice, and I don't very much care for, if I can tell you that as my friend and on-screen assistant, that if you are sort of what used to be regarded as a traditional conservative, that becomes conflated with far right. If you are anti the establishment, like I believe I'm not anti-establishment from the right. I believe in individual freedom. I believe in collective freedom. I believe in the right to identify however you want to identify. I believe in the right for you to be who you are sexually, of course, consensually. That you should be able to have the identity that you want to have. That you should have as much democracy as possible in your communities. We've been labelled like far right conspiracy theorists and all sorts of stuff by all manner of people. And what I've started to notice is, like, right, okay, so Ron DeSantis, he's far right. Elon Musk is far right. Joe Rogan, what about that? Can we have a look at that headline about Joe Rogan and Elon Musk? He's saying, like, these guys, they're not just doing podcasts there and talking about UFOs. They're dangerous nutters. They said that on Daily Beast, right? So look, they're apocalyptic. Now, they're talking about, like, as if that's the threat, as if Joe Rogan and Elon Musk are the threats to democracy, while the current Democratic Party is directing us closer and closer to a serious conflict, a potentially nuclear conflict with Russia. Admittedly, it's the Republicans that are tearing up treaties, but it's the Democrat Party that are arming Ukraine via the military-industrial complex. I'm not saying that there's, that Ukraine don't have the right to be armed against Russia that's invaded them criminally, albeit some would say after agitation. What I'm saying is that we're being invited to prioritize and understand information in unusual ways, and there is an attempt to label all information outside of the narrow parameters that they prescribe as either far right or something else. If the problem with Twitter, as you can see from this headline from the Atlantic, is it's become far right, and that the only thing we want to stop is far right rhetoric, let me ask you one question in 3 letters. RFK. Why is there a new poll from Harvard, let's have a look at that, of Democratic Party contenders that doesn't even include RFK? What's RFK? Is he far right? He's from the Democrat Party. No, he's anti-vaxxer. Okay, so if you don't support the Democrat Party and you're what? To the left, you're anti-vaxxer. If you don't support the Democratic Party and you're to the right, you're far right. All you can legitimately talk about are the talking points that they want you to talk about within the remit and rubric that they prescribe. And I'll tell you this, the Democrat Party are, in my view, they're not a left-wing party. They're a party that are completely dominated by corporate interests. They're funded by the military-industrial complex. They're funded by extremely wealthy donors. Joe Biden, when campaigning, said nothing is going to change to a room full of billionaires. It's plain that there is no room for discourse, that the only way they can win the argument is by shutting down the argument. We are on Rumble because we believe in free speech. We're not on Rumble because we believe in hate speech. I believe in you. I believe in your right to be you. I believe in your right to have your opinion. I don't think I know better than you about what you should think about a range of complex geopolitical and social and cultural issues. I think the only way to resolve the challenges that our culture faces is through open conversation. This tweet was from Greenwald, still grieving from the loss of his husband, but reporting nevertheless, only 40% of Dem voters say they intend to vote for Biden in the Dem primary. For whatever reason, the poll excluded the challenger at near 20%, RFK Jr., but even many Dems say Biden lacks mental fitness and they don't want to vote for him. I mean, Gareth, look at some of the people that have been included in this poll.
Yeah, Andrew Cuomo's on there.
Andrew Cuomo, I believe, where does he, what's his status? Hasn't he been in, he's been in some extraordinary peccadillos, I think it's safe to say. Yep. And they've polled people like Andrew Cuomo and someone else, don't know, unsure.
Right. No RFK. I mean, an ex-governor of New York was being charged with sexual misconduct, and you'll stick him on the list, but you won't have RFK. You've got to start wondering if there's an agenda going on here.
And when it was Bernie Sanders, an election cycle or so ago, he wasn't right either. So no matter what you present that is an alternative to their hegemony, they'll shut it down for some reason or other. Twitter is right-wing. RFK, he's anti-vax. We'll find a reason to ensure that the interests of the powerful remain unchallenged. No wonder people have got no faith in mainstream media. No wonder people have got no faith in government. No wonder people have got no faith in God at a time when people deserve faithlessness. But we mustn't allow ourselves to stray needlessly into nihilism. We must remain faithful. Okay, listen, we're gonna.
I've got just one.
Oh God, no! I want to hear you.
In the same.
I love you. I'm right behind you.
Thank you so much, mate. Thank you. So Glenn tweeted a few things. There's one here about Elon Musk, just to kind of go back to our story about how Elon Musk is kind of being targeted by the mainstream media at the moment. So Glenn writes, or the 3 political figures who are viewed most favorably by Americans are Elon Musk, Donald Trump, and Ron DeSantis. Musk has by far the highest favorability gap Mitch McConnell -24. So I guess what Glenn is saying is how out of touch the mainstream media is with the American people. If this poll is to be believed, that Elon Musk can't be viewed necessarily, they're painting him as a conspiracy theorist, but if the public are saying he's one of the 3 political figures who are viewed most favourably, then there is a gap there somewhere, isn't there?
This is a frantic scramble to maintain hegemony when it's plain that there are a variety of other views out there, ranging from old school conservatism and traditionalism to views that are economically, culturally and socially radical and can't be housed within the Democratic Party. Bernie Sanders, who remains, having been an independent for years, a sort of stalwart of their movement, he was not acceptable. The only thing that's acceptable to them are the kind of legacy career politicians like Biden and the Clintons, who seem to me, and let me know in the chat in the comments if you agree with this, in the pockets of the donor class. These are the kind of politicians, and I'm not saying specifically and explicitly and directly them, that own stocks and shares in the companies that they're supposed to regulate, whether that's big tech or big pharma, and that talk in a way that seems recognizable but legislate in a way that's all too familiar, not on behalf of ordinary Americans, but on behalf of corporate interests.
Well, look who's fourth on that list. It's Bernie Sanders. And we know the way in which the Democrat Party treated Bernie Sanders. They did everything possible to make sure that he wasn't their candidate. Everything possible. Hillary Clinton did it. Joe Biden did it. They made sure that he wouldn't become the next representative for the Democrat Party. And so, but voters, real Americans, obviously recognize something in Bernie Sanders. In the same way that they do for, say, Elon Musk.
Even if you disagree with people, perhaps we have learned to recognise authenticity, and what we've been advocating for on our channel is conversation from people from across the political spectrum and outside of all recognisable spectra, so that we hear a variety of views. That's why we want you to join us on Locals right now. Eric Lawall, for example, is saying, is anyone able to describe a plausible scenario where someone ascends to the US presidency without being compromised by the toxic systems they have to rely on? What a fantastic question. Firegirl 2020. If Bernie got half the media attention of Trump 2016, Bernie would have won. I know you guys are going to want to click that red button and dispute that point right now. Freach, baby, freach, a lot of people are saying. And a lot of you are very interested in RFK. If you haven't seen our interview with RFK yet, it's up on Rumble in full. And if you thought that you were a conspiracy theorist, wait till you get a load of that guy. He says stuff that I simply cannot say while we're still on YouTube, who, as you know, when it comes to matters of health, still take their guidelines from the WHO. As you also know, the WHO's second biggest donor is the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. It's not conspiracy theory to talk about that stuff. It's simply an alternative opinion. And by the way, I remember when people used to be able to have a conversation and be wrong about something. Oh, no, yeah, you've persuaded me. That's an interesting point of view. It used to be called discourse, journalism, opining, communing, learning in good faith from one another. What have we got now? A turgid attempt to centralise all communication and control all dissenting views through smearing. But when he got to the point where Ron DeSantis, a front runner for the presidency in the next election cycle, is announcing his candidacy on Twitter, an enormous platform owned by the most trusted political figure, according to that poll, in America, what you have is, I would say, if not a movement, then certainly a platform that's difficult to shut down. If you add to the mix Tucker Carlson being over there, if you add to the fact that RFK is going to have to be heard during the time that he's standing for the candidacy of the Democrat Party, the conversation is going to change, and we want you to contribute to that conversation and participate in it. Click the red button, join us over there.
I think the main thing it does show is that mainstream media is over, mainstream news is over. If, he's making this announcement on Twitter, he's not doing it on Fox, he's not doing it on CNN. This is now, we are seeing a massive shift now. You've got Trump doing everything on Truth Social. You've got DeSantis doing it on Twitter.
You've got us on Rumble, baby.
Right, the mainstream, it's crumbling.
Do you think that's what's happening? Are we witnessing the Ozymandias era of the mainstream? Is it a falling edifice? Is it a tumbling epitaph? Is it a statue to a time that's long since finished? Of course, Elon Musk's Twitter file revelations from Barry Weiss and Schellenberger and Matt Taibbi revealed the degree degree to which the deep state were censoring and controlling information on social media platforms. Do you still believe that the reason that the mainstream legacy media don't want Musk owning Twitter is because of hate speech? Do you think they care about hate speech? I don't think so. Do you think that Bud Light cares about trans rights? Do you think that Bud Light cares about blue-collar Americans? Or do you think they care about selling beer? The mainstream care about selling lies in the same way that Bud Light wants to sell beer. They care about Elon Musk because they can't control Elon Musk because he's too powerful. What's the price of being yourself and speaking your mind? Seems that you've got to be the richest man in the world to do it. Seems that you've got to be some kind of political maverick to do it. Seems like the machine is stepping up, amping up, and them cogs are turning fast to shut you down. But we will provide you with opportunities for free speech for just as long as we can here on Rumble. If you're watching us on YouTube, click the link in the description. Join us in our haven of free speech, where we'll be talking about how the FBI infiltrated anti-mandate protesters as well.